Hi, I'm Gamer for Fun. For the last couple of years I've collected a lot of games and game consoles, but one of my favorite game consoles of all time has to be the Nintendo GameCube. The Nintendo GameCube was the first console I ever owned, and for the past 5 years I've tried to build my GameCube collection with all the games I want to play. And these are the top 5 most expensive GameCube games I have in my collection. Let's take a look. This video is not sponsored, but I use CLZ Games for categorizing all my games. At 5th place of my most expensive GameCube games, we find Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. This has been one of the most expensive GameCube games for a long period, but after the announcement of a remake for the Nintendo Switch, this game has fallen a lot in price. But when I bought this game, it was the most expensive GameCube game I've ever bought, at 1,500 Norwegian kroners, or about $150. The graphics are really nice, the gameplay is really smooth, and the story actually seems like it's very good. But I really want to finish it because it's one of the highest rated GameCube games, and the highest rated game in the Paper Mario series. And since this is such an expensive game, I keep it in this acrylic box, like this, to protect it more. I bought this high quality acrylic protecting box from retroboxprotector.com, and I will leave a link to their website in the description down below if you want to buy one for yourself. Next up at 4th place of my most expensive GameCube games is the last game so far in this Nintendo franchise, and that is F-Zero GX for Nintendo GameCube. This is one of the games I purchased recently, and it is a game that I'm really looking forward to play, because this is probably the best F-Zero game in the entire franchise. And it's definitely the most difficult and the fastest one. As with Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, I haven't played this game very much, but I had to have this in my GameCube collection, just because it's such an amazing and fast-paced game, and the main character, Captain Falcon, is one of the coolest characters in Super Smash Bros. So if you have played this game, please let me know what you think about it and what's your favorite character in this F-Zero game. On 3rd place of my most expensive GameCube games that I have in my collection is the last Nintendo published game on the Nintendo GameCube, and that is the amazingly The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. This game was originally set to be a GameCube exclusive game, but since it was delayed so many times it got pushed to the launch of the Nintendo Wii, as well as it also came out on the GameCube. If you like me and play the Wii version the most, you will see that Link is right-handed in that game and he's left-handed, which he originally is in this GameCube game. What they did is they flipped the map of the Wii version so that he's now right-handed instead of left-handed. That's because most people use the Wii remote in their right hand. So in this game, Link is left-handed instead of right-handed when he uses his sword. And I do think that it's better to use a button press than just swing the Wii remote for using sword attacks. So I haven't played this version very much, I played some of it, and I'm really looking forward to play more of it, and it really looks good even on the GameCube. Since the Wii version was just the GameCube version with Wii motion controlling and a widescreen support. And this is definitely one of my favorite games in my GameCube collection. This next game, and the second most expensive GameCube game I have in my collection, is a really odd one. Cause this was originally an extra mode to the Game Boy Advance game, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. But Nintendo made this extra mode into its own GameCube game, and that is The Legend of Zelda: Four Swords Adventure. This is a very weird game because you don't just control one Link, you control up to 4 Links at the same time. It uses the same graphics as in the Game Boy Advance game. So to play this game, which is basically a multiplayer game, you need 1 copy of this game, you need 1 GameCube, and if you want to play up to 4 players, each player needs a Game Boy Advance and a separate Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cable to play it. So if you wanted to play this game in multiplayer and didn't have friends who had a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cable, this could be a very expensive game to play with your friends in multiplayer. This game was also very expensive when I bought it, and it still kinda is because this game has not been remastered or re-released on any platform after Nintendo GameCube. So I think this game could really work on a Nintendo Switch or its successor, online or offline with 4 friends. Luckily for me, I have a couple of Game Boy Advances and a couple of the GameCube to Game Boy Advance cables. So if some of my friends wants to play this game sometime, then I have enough Game Boy Advances and cables to play this game in multiplayer. Before showing you the most expensive game I have in my GameCube collection, I will show you 2 honorable mentions. The first one just barely didn't make my top 5 of the most expensive GameCube games in my collection. And the second honorable mention is technically not a game, but is part of my GameCube collection as an accessory and is still really expensive. So the game that barely didn't make my top 5 list, and I just recently found it at a good price, so I had to buy it, and that is Lost Kingdoms 2. This is the sequel to the first game I ever got on Nintendo GameCube, which was a second-hand game from one of my school friends. And this game, I haven't played it yet. I played a lot of the first game, but this game, as well as the first game, is actually a game developed by From Software. And if From Software sounds familiar, that's because that is the makers of the Souls games as well as Elden Ring. And since this is one of the more rare and expensive GameCube games I have in my collection, I keep this one in a plastic box protector. The accessory I was talking about, which is still quite expensive, is the Game Boy player for the GameCube. But the thing is, the accessory itself, which you put underneath the GameCube, is not very expensive and can usually be found separate for not much money. The more expensive part of this deal is the Game Boy player disc. This one is required, or used to be required, to play Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on Nintendo GameCube with this accessory. And luckily I bought this accessory with this game many years ago for an okay price, and now just the disc actually is very expensive. So even though you don't really need the disc anymore, collectors really want it, but luckily now you can use the Swiss software on a memory card to launch this disc and play the Game Boy player accessory, which in my opinion is one of the best accessories for Nintendo GameCube, without this actually expensive disc. So even though you don't need this one anymore, it's still quite expensive to get the physical disc, especially in the box. So luckily I have it in my collection. So finally, the most expensive GameCube game in my collection is a game that I really wished I had when it was originally launched on the GameCube, because the first game in this series on the GameCube is the most played GameCube game I own. And the second game in this series on the GameCube is hard to find a good copy for a fair price. And that is Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Pokemon is a game franchise that I've grown up with. From the first game I got on my Game Boy Color, which was the Pokemon Blue, to the latest one on Nintendo Switch, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I have played them all. I really like the original Pokemon Colosseum on the GameCube, but this one is much better. The graphics are about the same, the story is also a continuation kind of Pokemon Colosseum, but this game has more options when it comes to what Pokemon you want to catch, and you have Lugia as the main Pokemon both on the front and in the game. And one of my favorite Pokemon movies of all time is Pokemon 2000 or Pokemon 2 The Power of One, where Lugia was the main Pokemon for that movie. So I have played a couple of hours of this game, and when I bought this game for a fair price, I also got the official game guide, so I can look up stuff there if I want to know where Pokemons are or items, instead of just looking up on the internet, which is just how you did it in the early 2000s. As with the Pokemon Colosseum game on GameCube, you can connect a Game Boy Advance. You can import and battle with the Game Boy Advance Pokemon from Pokemon Emerald, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Ruby and Sapphire, which I think is really cool to get the Pokemon you battle with and trained with on the Game Boy Advance games on the big screen in 3D. So that is one of the favorite things I like to do with Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, to transfer and battle with my Game Boy Advance Pokemon in full 3D on the big screen. Another Pokemon game you had on the GameCube was the Pokemon Box game, which is again technically not a game, but a tool for organizing the Pokemon from the Game Boy Advance games in a more convenient way on the GameCube. That is actually one of the most expensive and rarest games you can buy on the GameCube, even though it's just a tool for organizing Pokemons. So I don't think I will ever get that physical copy with the complete in box for that game, but since I have an orange Japanese GameCube, I might get the Japanese version of Pokemon Box instead of the European or the US version, and then just use that version of the game to try it out for less money. So these are the 5 most expensive games I have in my GameCube collection. Do you have any one of these or remember playing them? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you want to see more collection videos like this. Also click the like button and follow me on my other social media accounts. I'm Gamer for Fun. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.